Like military intelligence, I always like to say is like we're looking far afield. We're looking at signals, right? Threat signals all across the globe. We're looking at our own internal self to see what's going on. Case in point, there's leaked credentials that no one knows about yet, right? On the dark web or in a hacker channel. At the same time this is happening, you see an attack against your organization on your cloud assets.
The blind spot is thinking of cloud security in verticals and not really seeing the full horizontal picture. You have your vulnerability management team, you have your data security team, you have your identity team, and they're all doing a fine job, but no one's actually trying to understand, well, how are all of these connected?
How do you do this without losing that trust from your developers?
Developers can feel part of the solution and not necessarily feel like they're the problem. I think truly the number one gap is psychological willingness to accept, auto-patching. It's funny, right? But it is a challenge. We're all kind of afraid of a system fixing things for us.
If you work for a SaaS company, ISV, and you're trying to figure out how does the cloud security market and traditional market kind of fits in together into solving cloud security, then this is the episode for you. I had a great conversation with Eyal and Micki. Eyal is from Wiz, Micki is from Checkpoint. We spoke about some of the current challenges they're seeing with their customers and what are some of the blind spots that ISVs are facing specifically, and why is there a need to think about threat detection as well as prevention in a different way in today's day and age? Because clearly, cloud security has changed quite a bit. In 2025, there's a lot more variations of cloud security. So they kind of explain their definition of what cloud security means as well, and how you can position yourself in your organization to take advantage of the way cloud security is evolving too. I hope you enjoy this episode with Eyal and Micki. And if you're here for a second or third time and you've been enjoying episodes of Cloud Security Podcast, I would really appreciate if you hit the subscribe and follow button on Apple, Spotify, if that's where you're listening to this episode, or on YouTube or LinkedIn, if that's where you're watching this episode. I hope you enjoy this episode, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace. Hello and welcome to another episode of Cloud Security Podcast. I've got Eyal and Micki with me. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Great being here.
Maybe to start off with, I can maybe have some introductions. Maybe Micki, if you want to start with your background, what have you been doing in the cybersecurity space?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So I'm kind of an old dog, and I was in cybersecurity before it was cybersecurity. My background's military, ex-military, and I did some defense work, and I was mostly in Nortel networks and Sprint, so telco, MSP, doing hardware, a lot of hardware and software. And then I had my own company and doing digital forensics for a while. And then I've been at Checkpoint for about 13 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's really, there's no boring day, right? There's no boring day. And I really love emerging tech and AI. So those are the things that I'm really focusing on now, and the intersection with cybersecurity, of course.
Of course. Eyal?
Yeah, so I'm a product manager. Actually, my background is from engineering. I started as a software engineer, also from military, actually. Did a couple of years in the equivalent of the NSA back in the 8200 unit.
Yeah.
But then since then, really focused on innovation, the startup space. I joined early on at a startup called Daz. Really exciting, starting a company from scratch, really seeing it grow. And we got acquired by Wiz. So now I lead a team of product managers at Wiz. And it's the same as you, right? Innovation really drives me. Seeing how AI blends into the space is just so exciting.
Yeah. And maybe it's a good place to start the conversation as well. I've been asking this. I feel like AI has disrupted so many things that people need to redefine certain assumptions we had about the space. So how do you guys define cloud security in 2025?
Wow. It's really, it's like super accelerated, hyper accelerated, I think, into cloud. So we have customers that like are traditional customers. They're on-prem and they're like, oh, we're going to cloudify. Maybe it's a cloud first strategy, new applications in the cloud, a little bit of backup into the cloud. Now it's completely hybrid cloud. It's cloud everywhere. There's really not anything that a customer has, especially in development and AI. There's nothing that doesn't touch cloud.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've had customers really change their minds and they're not in just one cloud. They're in multiple clouds, and not that just multiple cloud security or cloud service providers, but multiple, like public cloud, but multiple environments where they have like a one cloud strategy, on-prem, in colos, across many public clouds to create a big, ginormous cloud. And that's a lot of complexity, but there are ways to actually make it easier and more elegant. But it's been phenomenal. It's just, it's exciting because the big customers really get it.
Yeah.
And the smaller customers, mid-size, they'll try to make it more like traditional infrastructure, and that doesn't always work. So we always helping them, though.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Eyal, what's your definition of cloud security?
Yeah, I think what's so exciting about cloud security, it never stops, innovating. So 2025 is nothing like 2024, and it's probably nothing like what 2026 is going to be. I think we've seen such a big scale with AI, right? So cloud security has always been about, growing fast, moving fast, changing fast, and changing what we thought about traditional security. But really with AI, it opens up the door for growing even faster and bringing in new problems, but also leveraging AI to solve long-standing problems where we couldn't solve them. So I think that's what 2025 for me is. Yeah.
Interesting. And maybe to kind of take that next step then, what are some of the security challenges you guys are seeing with your scale-ups, ISVs, whatever name you want to use for it, in that industry? What are some of the security challenges that you guys are facing?
Yeah, sure. So cloud security, I think, is not a super new term, right? But obviously as we kind of grow, it keeps changing. And I think cloud security has always been challenging because it's very different than what we were used to in the past, right? Traditional security is nothing like cloud security. And I think, really understanding the cloud nature and how ephemeral it is, how it changes every day, how things go up and go down. And what you thought about your environment yesterday is not what it is today. So that changes so much. And in this AI era, it even enhances that dramatically, right? So I think the biggest challenge is just keeping up with speed and making sure that our day-to-day operations as security practitioners involve deep understanding of the cloud and not trying to take what we used to do, 10 years ago and do it again now, because it just doesn't work. We have to think in a cloud mindset, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it. I agree 100%. I think that, it's all about agility and speed. And it's also about saving costs. It's beauty of cloud. On demand, when you don't need it, trash it, don't pay for it. Security had to do the same thing. So there's lots of cool stuff. But scaling, agility, killing stuff when you don't need it and bringing it up, resiliency is like the ultimate across all of these environments. Uptime availability is in the CISSP triad: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And it has to be up and running.
So what do you find as a blind spot? I mean, obviously there are features and everything as well, but I guess from a CISO perspective, for people who are listening and watching, what do you find are some of the blind spots that perhaps ISVs are missing out on or not paying attention? Because to what you said, some of the environments have been traditional for a long time.
Right. There's a couple of things. This is my favorite question ever. I'd say number one, because everyone's adopting SaaS everywhere. If I can reduce having anything to deal with, SaaS reduce my risk. I have to protect my identity and access management, my accounts, and I have to protect my data, right? But that's it. It's easy breezy. But are we doing SaaS posture management? Are we looking at are there account hijacks? So that's a big one as people SaaSify more of their stuff. Number two, APIs. APIs, I've been begging people for years. Everything is API driven. We're communicating all via API. With generative AI, large language models, retrieval augmented generation, all APIs.
Yeah.
We're going to see it's machines talking to machines, but these are largely not security tested. Their business logic isn't really known. It's not documented. There's old versions, and they have public endpoint.
Yeah.
So and then I guess, putting the whole thing together is you have risks across all of this environment. You have to be able to see what those are, what exposures you have, and can you mitigate those as quickly as possible? Because in cloud or away to the cloud, the bad guys will find it very quickly, like immediately, and they will exploit it as quickly as they can. So we have to be as fast with the security to stop them, which is a challenge.
Yeah, the speed is just mind-blowing in cloud. Yeah. I think when obviously agreeing completely with everything, I think adding just, in terms of mindset and operationalization of security, really about, in my mind, is the blind spot is thinking of cloud security in verticals and not really seeing the full horizontal picture. Because at the end of the day, in cloud, the different risks that we have, the different exposures that we have, and maybe we're a large organization with multiple teams involving in, API and data and vulnerabilities, but really looking at them siloed misses the bigger picture, right? Because in cloud, everything is interconnected, and maybe in traditional data centers, we could have, other mitigating factors, but in the cloud, everything is interconnected. So trying to think of things as a horizontal attack path and trying to think like an attacker and the pace that attackers, work at. So looking at it from how everything is connected together is what I would say.
Yes.
Oh, big blind spot. So I guess because obviously people have known misconfiguration is a thing, but to what you're saying, Eyal, there's a lot more integrations and points of contact as well. So have the traditional methods kind of failed us there? I mean, we've been doing security for a long time. So why or where do they fail in this particular context?
Yeah. I think in the traditional space, and yes, security has been around for decades, right? And it's been doing a great job in what we had in the past, right?
Yeah.
But really, I think, even if you think about the way that teams are structured, right? You have your vulnerability management team, you have your data security team, you have your identity team, and they're all doing a fine job, but no one's actually trying to understand, well, how are all of these connected? And maybe that made sense back in the traditional world, right? In the on-prem data center, but in the cloud, there is no difference between the way I manage my identities or the way I manage my vulnerabilities. It's all back to code. It's all back to the developers, right? Trying to artificially separate that because it has been historically different teams, I think that's something we have to, move away from.
Oh, actually, because to your point, because if a CISO who's watching or listening to this, they put the same mindset.
That's just phenomenal. And I think that this is this thing we're seeing really innovative companies where they actually have developers working with the security teams and security working with the dev teams, but it's not that common. We've actually tried to do security as code, and try to keep up. We have a child security pipeline in the dev pipeline. So that can inform the security teams and put the hooks in for like incident response and after everything's up and running, checking the security pieces all along. Wiz can do a great job of informing like, hey, we got open source vulnerabilities and dependencies. You can fix this. You can fix something that's busted in the IDE. You have infrastructure as code that has an exposed key or credentials in clear text. You can fix all that in the dev cycle. I think that putting that whole story together of like the shift left and the shift right, which is like now you have security operations, totally, like you said, different teams thinking about what they're doing a great job, but they really have to work together. So the best thing we can do is provide really good finding things that are broken as rapidly as possible. I think IBM has a study that says that if you fix something, say a bug is $100 to fix in the dev cycle, in production it'll be $100,000 to fix. So that's 100x times, right, for tech debt. Fix it then. These guys are showing it, bring that forward, fix that. And then as it moves over to like going into production, you need threat intelligence and incident response and incident handling. So I think as we show them how it can all be together, it's coming along. I think many times we're actually doing a lot in influencing the org structure with security kind of being, I guess, an influencer, a heavy influencer into the rest of the teams. But it's all about innovation and speed of business, right?
Yeah.
Like if we show them, hey, if you do this, I have a big philosophy, like we should make KPIs for developers to find bugs. And get bonuses, man, when you find and fix something. You showing the business, right?
Yeah.
You reduce this risk. But internal bug bounties and offensive security teams, that's so fun, right? You can make it a culture, but it's a long time coming, right? It's definitely an InfoSec, firewall, even remote access used to be a different group.
Yeah.
So bringing this all together, and then also whatever we do, we can send them lists and lists and lists of vulnerabilities that they have no clue how to fix or what the hell to do. It just makes everyone go like insane. But if you have a great platform, you can actually show the developer exactly what they need to fix, where they need to fix it, and way further before it gets out into deployment. So that is the way we can show them, hey, you want to be free to operate. You love your freedom. You love your innovation. And, you're doing your thing. You're making your sprints. We're going to make your lives easier and save you getting your butt chewed. But maybe get you some extra money with some, fixes.
I love that. Yeah, I think being close security and developers is key. I think especially we're talking about, modern ISVs, modern SaaS companies, developers are the core, the bread and butter of what drives the business forward. So keeping them close to the security is key. And actually, that's why, at Wiz, we really love the gamification concept. I love the concept of also money prizes. Definitely, that's the next step. But I think even if it's just internal, praise and games and gamification, where developers can feel part of the, solution and not necessarily feel like they're the problem. Because at the end of the day, if our entire company is building software developers are really our, engine that's driving everything.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because the bigger challenge in this is that finding the balance where you don't piss off a developer is kind of where we fail. At least security team seems to fail. How do you do this without losing that trust from your developers? I guess because you point shift left, you mentioned that as well.
Right.
How do you do this in a developer first environment, which is what most ISVs and SaaS providers are? They're like least friction for developers, let them go geek crazy. So how do you find, and maybe Eyal, if you have a concept for this as well?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's first of all important to understand that, again, they're the business driver of the company. We should embrace their mindset and understand that they're really about innovation, about moving fast. So first of all, embracing the fact that we want to be enabler and not a blocker, which is sometimes, many security teams see themselves as a gate, but really we want to be embedded deeply into the process.
Yeah.
And then I think the second part is really speaking their language. So making sure that when we communicate security problems, we communicate in a way that they understand. So no longer, hey, here's CVE 1234. Well, I have no idea what that does mean. Instead, let's tell them, hey, here's this line of code you wrote. And it's if we don't fix it, someone can actually exploit your application called whatever.
Yeah.
And if you don't fix this line, your application is at risk, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, did you want to add something to that?
Oh, yeah, I think it's so crucial. I think that it even in security teams, just looking at CVEs and stuff and like, oh, I've got to do this. It really comes back to being able to visualize what are the things that are putting my company at the most risk right now. And it may not be if we're just patching CVs or just fixing certain things, like we are not seeing the big picture. We need to see the big picture. What are the top priorities of the things that I can do? All that tooling, all that visualization, it brings it back. Where can I fix it to remove the most risk? And a lot of this is now coming back like full circle and having a 360-degree view of your organization, kind of like military intelligence. I always like to say is like, we're doing geospatial, we're looking far afield, we're looking at signals, right? Threat signals all across the globe. We're looking at our own internal self to see what's going on. We see our perimeter. When you're looking at the kind of hybrid cloud environment that we're having today, you need to see those signals across the board. Case in point, there's leaked credentials that no one knows about yet on the dark web or in a hacker channel, right? And at the same time, there's fake accounts doing some stuff being registered underneath your domain.
Yeah.
There are insider threats as well, right? We've seen some pretty big insider threats. We won't mention names, but the fact is that you don't know who might be leaking your credentials. It could be an external threat actor. But at the same time this is happening, you see an attack against your organization on your cloud assets. That is a multi-phased attack.
Yeah.
That threat started way out here geospatial. But now if we could have stopped it then, we could have stopped impending attacks, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So really putting this whole story together, I think is the holy grail, is what everybody is chasing after. And AI is going to help us a lot with this, to be able to make big picture things of multi-step, multi-path vector attacks, right? And precursors of attacks are huge. And if it's something, hey, I see that there's this going on, this is happening over here, and this is also a vulnerability that's now being actively exploited. Okay, now I know exactly where to spend my time, right? I'm going to go after and fix that thing because I know that there's an impending attack or an attack in progress. Or,
Yeah, no, I think I really agree. And you bring up a really good point on being able to tie between, one side of the house, the right side of the house, I would say the incident response or like security operations side, which are reacting to threats.
Yeah.
And the other side of the house, which is the exposure management or like posture management. How do we prevent things? So really having these two sides communicate closely. And when we investigate an incident, try to tie it back to what posture gap led to it. And when we do analyze and close posture gaps, trying to articulate that in a way that what might be the breach that would happen, right? So having these two sides deeply connected is really exciting. And we see, especially in the cloud, they're so interconnected, and events that happen in runtime, you immediately tie them back, even all the way back to infrastructure as code sometimes, which is amazing to see. Yeah.
Fantastic.
With the customers you guys are working and talking to, I wonder, what are some things as they've matured through the journey? A lot of them fast movers, the SaaS companies, clearly first adopters of a lot of technology. are there things that they had to unlearn as they have matured in this? And I wonder what you guys are finding there.
Yeah, sure. I think in my mind, I would split it into two types. You have the companies that were, I like to call it born in the cloud, right? Companies that cloud was their bread and butter since the first day. And I feel like they, are drinking from the Kool-Aid, so to speak, right? And are just adopting everything. And then you have these larger enterprises, organizations that have been here maybe hundreds of years even, right?
Yeah.
And they need to adapt and change. And now the cloud is coming out. And I feel like it's more about just keeping up with the pace and being very willing to adapt and to accept new technologies and not trying to shy away from them or be afraid, right? I feel like when the cloud just came out, everybody were afraid of, how can I protect it? How can I be sure it's secure?
Yeah.
But then, fast forward a couple of years in the future, everybody understands that the cloud is where they want to be, and you just need to understand what guardrails to put in place. So as long as you keep adopting and learning all the time new things and not trying to stay, where you are, I think that's what I've seen the most success, companies that truly adopted this cloud nature.
Awesome.
I love it. I agree 100%. And I think we've seen across the board, different kind of use cases or scenarios for customers and their evolution. And we used to say it's a journey into the cloud, but everybody is taking that journey. How fast you're going to get to the summit is another thing. But yeah, I think we've seen like a big shift though, because it used to be like, hey, we're going to do cloud. We're going to be slow moving. And then it'll be like, cloud first. So new applications. We have a lot of customers. They have legacy applications. They can't be cloudified, whether it's on-prem. It can't be software-defined data center cloudified. It can't be private cloudified. It can't be public cloudified. But it's really all coming back to this hybrid cloud environment, and you have to be able to support that across.
Yeah.
I think the pain points I've seen with customers that just refuse to adopt is that, these are usually very heavy fixed cost, super risk averse, organizations. They don't move fast. They don't assume risk. We even have some customers that basically say no cloud. They're still building data centers and they're hyperscaling them. It's like it's very interesting how they approach. But I think that the really good ones are embracing, cloud, and they are doing the hybrid cloud kind of approach. So it's seamless. And I wish we had more like we're seeing with AI. We're seeing like chief AI officers. We're seeing now AI like governance committees reporting directly to the board, talking about AI trust and AI, ethical AI. And I think we should have had that with cloud more because it was kind of, sometimes it fell under the CFO and sometimes it came under a technology group. And there were some cloud steering committees and enterprise architecture standards around cloud adoption, but it was kind of like, it was kind of quirky.
Yeah.
Now they become very mature, and the mature ones are really adopting and seizing the day.
Yeah, it's a great point. I've seen some companies have like a cloud excellence, a space which is phenomenal for the growth, for building that grassroots movement and truly moving. I think especially, as you said, like the older organizations that are trying to mature and move forward, and especially if they're risk averse, like financial services, right? Obviously, they will always have these more traditional applications that every small change in them is a huge, ordeal. So really trying to embrace, I really like your approach of hybrid cloud and trying to, move everything we can, but then even things that we can't move, try to modernize and embrace the same mentality.
Yes.
I think that's a really great
Do you guys feel that detection and response in its isolation doesn't work then in this world? Like, I guess, where do you guys, obviously, I'm going with this it's a very, I guess, alert fatigue is a thing these days as well.
100%.
There's the whole concept of a lot of people have built their entire security programs around detection, response, resilience. But maybe, and how do you guys see this? Especially now, as you mentioned, there's a lot of AI use cases in there as well. Yeah. How is AI changing a lot of this?
So exciting. I don't even get me started on detection. You're only detecting. What's that going to do? Like, human has to run behind now. So like, okay, something happened. There's an exposure, right? Is it actively being exploited?
Yeah.
Right. So like in the cloud, the window has to be like, it has to be closed immediately. So this detection thing of like, okay, go look and see if this is a problem. What should we do? Humans running behind, not going to work. So we've been doing machine learning and deep learning and neural networks for everything from malware identification to like threat intelligence. I think we do have a very good efficacy for our threat intelligence. I think that it's very important to have the best threat intelligence you can have, because if you have a high degree of confidence in the efficacy of the threat intelligence, then you'll block on it.
Yeah.
Like the two kind of objections for, especially if you talk to like the C-level, is going to be why we don't do preventative actions on threats or security events, is because one, we feel like it's a false positive and we could be blocking real traffic, right? And that's a valid concern. High false positives and bad events, really bad efficacy has caused that pain, right? The second thing is, if I invoke this protection, I'm going to break something. It's going to hit a performance thing, and it's at threshold, and everything is going to tank. So what you really have to go back to is like on the threat intelligence, if you will be preventative, which I say you must, that checkpoint where the people of prevention. I mean, especially because we believe that attacks are not, they can be like low-hanging fruit attacks, just like, just opportunistic, but they can be very, very crafty and very hard to detect with multiple vectors, right? We feel like if you can prevent something from happening in the first place, wouldn't you want to do that? And we take pride that we do have high efficacy. So catch real threats and don't give a bunch of false positives, because no one will listen. And it's just noise, right?
Yeah.
And we were just talking over at the checkpoint booth at Black Hat is, you talk to CISOs that have been around for a while. The noise, like Horton hears a who or whatever, like it's just all this noise.
Yeah.
They can't make sense of it, right? We have lots of data, but are we making intelligent sense out of it? And this is where the AI comes in. So we, much faster than human, can see these things, right? The AI can see these things and actually augment human in this. And I know you're going to maybe talk more about like automated fixes and stuff like that. But I would say like, we have to take if we want to see a bit ahead of the bad guys, we have to take every advantage that we can. I still love human in the loop. I'm a big human. I like humans a lot. I love AI too, but I want humans, right? To be augmented. So, but it also reduces a lot of stress. It takes a lot of risk. I mean, you could probably cut 90% of your risk if you proactively block. I literally had a customer ask me, like, I saw a Cobalt strike. And in my security log, should I block it? I'm like, you're not blocking that. You should never see that.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you red teaming? Are you pen testing? No, you got to block it. But it's like, they need help, right?
Yeah,
they want guidance, and that's the thing. So that was a long story. But.
No. I mean, Eyal, did you want to add to that as well?
No, I totally agree. Basically, anything which includes any manual repetitive labor should be completely automated with AI, and keeping human in the loop for the sophisticated cases, for the cases that need, deep expertise. That's the way I look at it. And in general, I think the way I like to think about, the security, especially in the cloud, is kind of like post-incident and pre-incident, right? And obviously there's the side that deals with detection and response. There's the side that deals with, logs and events happening. And then there's the side that is meant to prevent these from ever happening. And couldn't agree more, on prevention being a key part to improve and reduce the exposures that we see at the end. And keeping these two sides closely knit together is really what we've, been focused it with, and really focused at getting them together, and incorporating AI on both ends really makes, every side better. And especially, when we look at the detection and response, right, having AI automated, SOC analysts or things like that can crunch through the data fast and surface out those risks and detections, and then pass them over if some deeper analysis needs to be done to the human, which can then pick the important events out of the sea of logs, right?
Yeah. I think, and Micki, you mentioned the remediation part, the automation part as well. I'm curious as to, because remediation was one of those ones where it kind of came in between. We spoke about the different eras of it. We all started with compliance and started going from misconfiguration, visibility, and somewhere in between there was a hot second for remediation, and then everyone dropped it like a hot cake and go, no, let's move on to workload. Like, hey, look over here. Don't worry about remediation. Are we in a better state to do remediation today compared to previously attempts?
Yeah, I think so. I think it comes back to it. I think like vulnerability chasing and vulnerability management, it's like totally you have to do it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like you'll never be ahead. So I think it's also coming back to is if for remediation, it's like, can I look out there? Like I can look at Wiz, can I look at Checkpoint, can I look at the other guys? And we support up to 70 vendors. Can we, via API, can we see if there's a control set or an enforcement point somewhere that can do something about this? Yeah, if there is it active or is it not active? If it's not active, like what is the impact if we invoke it, right? And then if it's something that does need to be patched, can we virtually patch it? Patching, because you guys, I used to work with government and like we would have hundreds of thousands of vulnerabilities that required patching. And this is way back, like in some other time. But basically the fact is that you can't patch this stuff all the time right away because the application owners won't allow you to patch. If there's something like, if it's like a Microsoft, patch Tuesday, that's a whole different story. But you're talking about a lot of different applications that are very difficult to patch. So they will try to do a maintenance window. It could be in 3 months, right? So then what can you do? You don't have a compensating control. Can you virtually patch it? And this is, again, comes back to the network level, right? Can we do something at the network level to virtually patch until such time that that patch can be actually mitigated or remediated, right? And I think that's the thing, taking all the things you can do. I love how you said like putting all these things together and pulling them together. So like precursor preventative stuff in the dev cycle, workloads, applications, containers, all code, all the way through now the application's up and running. What can you do to get ahead of the bad guy? So like it's not a one or other, it's all of the above. And it's really not that hard to achieve. I think the other thing too is you've got to have verification and validation. Any type of QA process that's automated without a human, big problem. We saw that with a major company. And some of the customers are still being impacted by that. I mean, when you literally brick all your servers and all your endpoints, it's a big problem. So security cannot do that. Because like security is always the guys that are like, oh, it's the firewall, right? Or something they're doing on the security team, right? So we have to be like, we can't be having security fixes that or mitigations, remediations that are going to break something else.
So you're finding that actually customers are open to the whole virtual patching?
They are. The virtual patching thing is pretty awesome because you can do you can look at the classification of like the risk. Is it high critical? And then you look at the performance impact, right? So it's like you're getting information that tells you whether or not. And if you see that it's actually actively, contextually, it's actually being exploited in my environment, virtual patch.
Interesting. And you find the same as well, Eyal, that your customers that you're talking to are open to the idea of remediation? And
I think it's a great topic, and you followed up on the challenges and the dangers of it. I think I just had a conversation with a customer today at the conference here, right, about the willingness to adopt it. And I think truly the number one gap is psychological willingness to accept, auto patching, right? I mean, it's funny, right? But it is a challenge. We're all kind of afraid of a system fixing things for us. I think the technology is there, right? You were saying, remediation is kind of having a new wind in a way. The technology is there. It's just the willingness to adopt it. And I think trying to find the areas out of, 100% of my landscape, where am I willing to have the automated patches, the automated fixes, even if they're virtual or actual patches, they are going to impact my environment. And am I ready to accept that the machine is going to patch automatically or fix? So I think we're seeing adoption and willingness to adopt that in lower environments. If it's in dev, well, I don't mind an automated patch, right? I guess the exciting part would be when teams would be willing to adopt these mentalities also in production environments. And I think we're still not there. Obviously, there's the new, the folks that are willing to be, cutting edge. But I don't think that we're 100% there. And this is why the way I see it is that really tying back, the vulnerabilities and the risks back to their origin, back to the code, if they're related to code, right? And fixing there is better because that's where people are willing to accept the automated fixes, right? So,
And would you say that there was a whole thing about a lot of industry focuses on posture management for a while. And based on at least what I'm hearing as well, cloud these days is quite complex. You have your CI/CD pipelines, your containers, your serverless. I'm throw AI in there as well. And now you're looking at this world where posture management doesn't seem like the right thing to describe it. So what does vulnerability management or threat management look like in this particular world that we are in?
I think it's kind of a twofold approach, is that taking the traditional things that we know of and applying them, being more open to do things. I think it's really more about it. Posture management is so important to be able to see the things that are happening. So like keep that going, take the other stuff and mix with it. But I think it really comes down to like continuous threat exposure and risk management. What are my digital risks across all of this environment? What are the things that are causing me the highest risk? If I can fix it while it's in the dev cycle, absolutely. If it's a container drift, like I know of a customer that had containers that were infested with malware. That should never happen. You shouldn't have a container. You should have a clean image. Principle of immutability, right?
Yeah.
When you're building code, it's not manipulated after it's running. These things, you put this all together. I think the big picture is really being able to see far afield, see what's going on internally, take all your traditional stuff and put this all together for a big kind of approach, 360 view. And really, again, if you can fix anything anywhere and if you can automate it and augment human. I mean, you guys remember when you used to test malware? I'm sure you used to use like Hexways, IdaPro and stuff and reverse engineer malware. Yeah. It's really fun. It's really fun if you're in school, right? But you can't do that. You know, if I can say, hey, all these things being equal, all this stuff is good, but we see that this threat actor just got through an endpoint, got a person to click a phishing link, and now I have dropped malware on that machine. Now it's trying to spread laterally. That's something that we have to think about, because really network security, posture management, all those things are great, and we should do all of those things. But it can take one phishing link, if you have really good endpoint security and you're going to stop it there, or browser security, you're going to stop it there. And with like AI, what are you putting in the prompt window? If you're using like a SaaS-based AI application, these things are super important. So I guess I'm just kind of like digressing, but ultimately it really has to be all things. I think posture management is amazing. And now you guys are having like AI posture management and data posture management. It's so crucial because we need to put all this together. And I think that, you know, as we continue to work together, it's all going to be like, how do we, I don't want to say integrator of integrators, but how do we become system open garden players so that we can give the best value, the best security for the customers, right? Putting it all together, not adding complexity and layers.
100%. Yeah. I think to me, posture management, if you will, 2.0 really is what we call exposure management, right? Is really understanding that our posture leads to an exposure. Yeah. And really understanding that posture management is not just, oh, this is misconfigured, you know, which is what people think when they think about posture management for the cloud. It is about whether my environment is built in a way that can lead to an exposure. So to me, the evolution of posture management is to adopt the mindset of exposures, of analyzing the attack path and thinking like an attacker. Yeah. And not just trying to, you know, close all misconfigurations, which might not be even relevant. So that's, I think, the evolution of that.
Are there cultural challenges walking down this path? I feel like to what both of you are saying as well. I mean, traditionally we've done a certain way. There are people who are fixated on the idea and how to solve a particular problem. Some people still waterfall for, you know. Yeah. So what are some of the cultural challenges that you're finding that your customers probably face, and how do they overcome it? I'm curious.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. And we're really driving for something we call democratization in Wiz, which is really making security something embedded in the entire organization, right? Yeah. I think you're bringing up a great point of security is still siloed in the security team. Yeah. So that's a major organizational problem. And the reason many teams are unable to break that barrier is a lack of ability to democratize security, make it accessible and you know, even gamified, if we're going back, you know, to what we brought up, in a way that, you know, other people in the organization can step in, can take part in the security game, right? So that's the biggest barrier in driving this democratization is what I see.
Yeah, I love that. That's amazing. That is really a game changer, right? And the platforms or the tools, the things that we have available actually do help train people. So everything, we've done phishing campaigns, we do cybersecurity training for everyone. If you get everyone on board and you gamify or find something fun and also create, cross teaming, that all comes from a cultural shift too. Like that, if people are hiring developers and they're basically insourcing them and it's just like they're working to create something or whatever for the company and there's not any cultural like shift or crossover. That's one thing we see a lot. There's a lot of different like software shops and people developing, but ultimately the organization, whether it's their own developers or they're sourcing or they're using combined teams, they can create that culture. That is the key though. And that really is, in teaching everyone. And especially, I think developers for a long time, they just get list of stuff from, they see like the security as the overlords, right? And it makes their lives miserable. What they want is like, tell me, put the guardrails on, give me the tools to use and tell me how you want to do it. Because ultimately, all of us have to inform the business, right? Yeah. How are we supporting the business drivers for innovation, agility? How are we reducing risk? And we have to quantify it. So like we can put a lot of stuff together in different ways. We can kind of let like laissez-faire, hey, go do what you want. But we really have to have a little bit of process, a esprit de corps, right? In how everyone works on security together as a team and like celebrate wins when we're reducing risk and fixing bugs and stuff like that. I love an internal bug bounty program or a public one. Because, we should all be, I think, we all should be testing our software like that. And then, like, somebody finds something, it should be like a big win, you know?
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. I guess those are all the technical questions I had for you guys. Where can people learn more about the partnership that you guys have in terms of the Wiz and Checkpoint? And maybe I'll start with you. Where can people find more about the awesome stuff that Checkpoint is doing?
Yeah, I think we have like a better together story with Wiz. I'm not the corporate spokesperson, right? But I'll tell you, Micki's approach is that Wiz is amazing. We have a great partnership. I think it was a fantastic idea. Nadav, right? Look, oh, you guys are all on the old team together. But Israel is Startup Nation, Cyber Nation, right? Innovation Nation. So, but I think it's phenomenal, and we have. Our external risk management, continuous threat, digital risk exposure, right? We have the network security, all the cool stuff in cloud. Let's be honest, you can have all your stuff running in cloud, but you still need segmentation. You have experimental environments. There should be segmentation. There's still a place for network security, actually very viable place for cloud guard network security. There's also APIs I talked about. We have an amazing WAF that we have. It does machine learning. It has a bunch of supervised learning or training, and then it does unsupervised learning, and it does risk scoring. It's amazing, great for API security, schema validation, rate limiting. You put that together with their amazingness, like it's just we have a great, comprehensive solution together.
Yeah, I'm super excited about the partnership as well. I think Wiz, is every day something new is coming out, and I'm super glad to be part of this rocket ship. But I think specifically the bread and butter of Wiz has always been analyzing attack path, analyzing in the cloud, deeply understanding the context. That's king and queen in our world. And this is why we've always been building on top of the Wiz graph, right? And I think this amazing partnership lets us expand that graph, and bring in the expertise from the Checkpoint network understanding. And we've built a deep technical alliance, right? Beyond, obviously all of our joint work together in conferences and, marketing, but really deep product integration to expand the context that we see in the cloud and embrace that deep network context that, Checkpoint brings to the table. So super excited about this partnership here.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And where can people connect with you guys to talk more about Wiz or Checkpoint? LinkedIn?
LinkedIn is always a great place. Yeah. So feel free to reach out for sure. Yeah.
I'll put the links in the show notes as well. But thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah,
this is
thanks so
great.
much. It was so much
Fantastic.
fun. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening and watching this episode of Cloud Security Podcast. If you've been enjoying content like this, you can find more episodes like these on www.cloudsecuritypodcast.tv. We are also publishing these episodes on social media as well, so you can definitely find these episodes there. Oh, by the way, just in case there was interest in learning about AI cybersecurity, we also have a sister podcast called AI Cybersecurity Podcast, which may be of interest as well. I'll leave the links in the description for you to check them out. And also for our weekly newsletter, where we do in-depth analysis of different topics within cloud security, ranging from identity, endpoint, all the way up to what is the CNAP or whatever a new acronym that comes out tomorrow. Thank you so much for supporting, listening, and watching. I'll see you next time.